Richard, Mark Chambers with the, you're not DDOE, you're DGS.
Yes, Department of General Services.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, if you'd like to go ahead and get started.
I'll do a couple-minute intro that starts the conversation and then hand it off to you.
All right, that's fine.
It'll be kind of
No,
chronological.
no,
All right.
So we, so in 2010, the Institute did a Living City Design Competition that just asked the question, what if you take the Living Building Challenge and apply it to the city scale? What would you get? Thought that maybe we'll get 30, 40 submissions from the Northwest, got hundreds of submissions from all around the world that showed the power of using the Living Building Challenge for community and beyond scale. So because of that, we went and took those ideas and went to some of our funders and said, we think there's a lot here to explore. We're also working on the next version of the challenge, so let's get a grant to do some pilot work. So we started doing, we got funding to do 3 pilot communities. The first is, so the Child Care Center that you saw in Burnaby, BC, that's part of a bigger development called University that needs to plan their 5th phase, so we're doing that as a pilot. We're working in Bend, Oregon for a sort of an infill development near their downtown that's been skipped over and doing a project there. And so we started to think about the need to do a third, what would a third pilot be? And we really needed something in a different climate or something that really focused on existing buildings. And so we talked to many cities. We've settled on doing the third pilot in San Francisco in existing neighborhoods, but we started the conversation with the district of what was the potential to have the district be that third pilot. We'd get a different climate zone, we might work on existing buildings, so that started a conversation that has evolved into doing a different kind of pilot. We still are pursuing the need to do more of these community scale pilots, so I'm hoping that we can come back around to renew, not only talk about the pilot you're doing now, but maybe renew that conversation about the potential for a community pilot here in the district. So,
Great. Thank you.
So, as mentioned, my name is Mark Chambers, and I'm with the DC Department of General Services, one of the 2 main agencies. I'm not sure if you met Bill Updike here earlier, who was from the Department of the Environment, who's also been leading this. One of the things I'm not sure, first of all, before we continue, if the missing cell phone was addressed. I know that there was something about a cell phone that was left downstairs. If anyone is missing that, please feel free to check the front desk. What we're going to do and what we're going to talk about today is more about process and about intent, because we are just beginning. This is in the infancy of a desire on behalf of the district to reach further and to start to craft a living future for ourselves through living buildings. And so one of the main things that we always kind of say when we're talking is begin anywhere. Because a lot of times there is especially working in government, there's the desire to do so much at once, and a lot of times that ends up stalling progress, and it ends up meaning that you are going to be kind of like your own worst enemy. And so we've kind of taken on this particular philosophy in terms of starting. You must just begin. It doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily get down to the goal that you intended in the beginning, but it means that you're going to start a process, and the process is going to hopefully be fruitful for a lot of people. At the Department of General Services, we have a unique position in the district because we are the construction arm of the district, as well as we maintain the buildings. We have a police force that protects them. We deal with all the leasing. We're responsible for close to 30 million square feet of real estate, which is not just office buildings. It's police stations, it's fire stations, it is parks and recreation centers, schools, everything. And so with a portfolio that's so diverse, it's important for us to have some governing principles about how we do things, but it's also important for us to know that we're setting an example for the city. A few years ago when DC passed the Green Building Act, it set a precedent not just locally, but nationally in terms of legislative performance and allowing for people to start to go far beyond that. We weren't certain, I think at the time, that the district would, in terms of the private sector, would push so far and so quickly, so that all of the metrics established in the Green Building Act kind of almost seemed to lag way behind where the public in the city was actually moving. So that's kind of a success story about just beginning. Start kind of getting a process moving, and then you can kind of see where the road goes. So for us, our particular process started with our mayor. Mayor Gray, about a year and a half ago, kind of started to think more about where the city was going to be, what role he wanted the city to play in the national landscape. And he started to think about the idea that he wanted the city and DC to be the healthiest, greenest, most livable city in the United States, which is, small goal. And so we actually started to kind of think about what exactly does this mean, and how do you get there, and how do you start to kind of craft a path forward for that, that will not just kind of involve the building stock, but will involve everything, the city, the citizens, and also a lot of the new citizens that are moving back into the city. And so the Sustainable DC kind of initiative was born. And a lot of you may be familiar with this, those of you local, but it's the plan for how the city gets there. And so that plan is important because, again, it sets the agenda for what follows. And so we had a meeting about a year and a half ago at the convention center. It was November. And so the thought was that let's kick off this idea. We'll have a collaborative, invite, whoever wants to come, building professionals, citizens, whoever, come by, and we'll just kind of have a chat. And so about 400 people plus people showed up, which was more than expected. And so it started to give this quick advantage of the fact that a lot of people were interested in this. And for different size cities, 400 plus people may not seem like a lot, or it may seem like a whole lot depending on your smaller city. But for us, it was just a quick reality check. It was like, there are a lot of people that are interested in this, and there's going to be a lot of focus on this, so let's use this to our advantage. And that's why the process started to become very important. So what we did is that we kind of broke out with all of this kind of energy a lot of the population, and we started to kind of look at how we're going to do this. And we split up into 9 different working groups, which kind of started to look at the full gamut of sustainability. And those working groups ultimately translated into different action areas. You can see governance, jobs, climate, built environment, energy, food, nature, all the things that allow for a city to actually function autonomously into the future and function well. And so, it was this kind of thing where, when I say we had working groups, I was a chair of the built environment working group. So we kind of looked at the building stock and how we start to evaluate it. And a lot of it dealt around data and how we're able to acquire data so we can adjust performance. But it was literally, meetings like every other week in basements of churches and in office buildings and in conference rooms, at night, and like